so where to get Blender? If we open up Google here, Blender is at blender.org. Okay. Blender is a completely free program. It's free to use for any purpose, for whatsoever, forever. Okay. There's lots of resources here on their website, and those are really get involved. There's all sorts of stuff of where they're at and their development and all that fun stuff. But let's go ahead and just hit download Blender. Okay, I'll take you to this page. You just want to go ahead and just hit this big blue button here. It'll bring up where you want to download it to. I usually download it to my downloads. I've already got it in here, but you can just hit save, and I'll start to download. Okay. Once you download it, double click it. You'll install it, and after it installs, it should have a shortcut here on your desktop. That's what that is. Okay. Okay, and the first thing I do, it took me a while to get this figured out, but this will make life much easier working in Blender. So we open it up, just click there. Okay, it's going to bring in our main page. It's going to kind of bring up this little menu deal here, and then any of the files that you save as you go, there'll be a list of recent ones here where you can just kind of click, and the last 5 projects you did or whatever, it will be right here, and you can just do a quick click, or you can just click on the outside and make that go away, and this is a brand new scene. Just looking at the scene here, this is their standard opening scene. It comes with a camera already in the scene, it comes with a cube, and it comes with a light, and this is like the directional light in Unity. It's kind of like plays like the sun. It doesn't matter where it's at, it just only matters where it's pointing. Okay, so the first thing I do is go up to our menu bar up here, go to Edit. You want to go down to Preferences. Okay, down here. Okay, so you want to go down to where it says Navigation. Okay, and then this is going to be clicked off. You want to make sure this is clicked on. Orbit around selection. Okay, so you want to make sure whatever you have selected, that's what you rotate around. Okay, auto perspective is going to be checked on. You want to check that off. You want to make sure that is off. What that does is if you go into orthographic mode, which is what you'll be in most of the time when you're modeling, anytime you go in between edit and your object mode screens, it's automatically going to shift you right back into perspective, and that gets real annoying after a while, constantly having to click that off. So go ahead and turn auto perspective off, or not. You don't have to. That's not the other thing you want to do is you want to click zoom to mouse position. Okay, so anywhere that your cursor is on the screen and you zoom in with your wheel, that's where you're going to zoom to. Otherwise, this is going to zoom to whatever the last thing you had selected. So if you select this, but you want to look over here, it'll start zooming in over here. Okay. So let me bring this back up. Okay, so that's the 3 big things to do. The only other thing is if you're on a laptop and you do not have a numeric keypad, you want to go to your inputs and you want to click on emulate numpad. Okay, and that'll just make those top rows of numbers on your keyboard your numpad numbers that you have on there, and those are where you can do quick look on the front, side, top. That's on your numpad, but if you don't have a number pad, you click that and it'll make those numbers on the top of your keyboard work that way. Okay. Now down here, after you get all that set, we'll go to your down here now. Auto save should be on. And this is a new thing. Used to, you had to always save your preferences. So I just kind of double check the first time, make sure auto save's on, and click that anyway to save that. And then one other thing is Blender has all these built-in add-ons, kind of like Maya. Sometimes you have to go into Maya and turn on certain things that aren't automatically installed, but are part of the program. That's kind of what this is. If you go to add-ons, you'll see a whole list of stuff, and a lot of these things do come in useful, and there are several tutorials on those, but I'm just going to add on one thing since we're just going to do a simple 3D model for our game here, and it's called Loop Tools. So instead of going through this whole list, you can just click right here and type in loop. It should bring in that, and it'll be clicked off and grayed out, and you just want to click it on. Okay. If you pull down this little arrow, it's just going to tell you it's a mesh modeling toolkit. It's got some things where you can bridge and stuff like that, and then who made it, and there's some documentation, and if there's something wrong with it, you can report a bug. So that's just information on there. But once that's done, like I said, I just do this out of habit. Make sure that's saved. Hit X. Okay, and then next we'll bring in an image and see about, I think it's a mailbox we're going to model. Okay, alright. Okay, so on our startup screen again, we're not going to be rendering anything, and we really don't need any lighting in the scene. We might bring one in, so kind of show you the different options up here. But to select them, you just right click. They'll turn yellow. You can hold down Shift, select multiple objects, and then to delete something, you just hit X on your keyboard and bring up delete, and click yep, and they'll go away. Okay, and then this is the default cube, and just left click on it, and yeah, we're going to use something else, so we can go ahead and hit X and delete that. Okay, so to move around like I'm doing, you just use your mouse like in Unity and go around like this. To rotate around, you just hold down your middle mouse, which is going to be your scroll wheel. You just click down on your scroll wheel and then move your mouse. Okay, and that is orbit around. Alright. If you just want to go side to side, this way, you hold down Shift and then left click, middle mouse button click, and you go side to side, up and down. That's going to be your main movements. To zoom in and out, you just use your scroll wheel. Zoom out. Okay. Alright. So what I want to do right now is I'm just going to model a mailbox from the post office. I've got an image that I found. I just did a Google image search and search for USPS mailbox. Popped up this thing, and it's just going to be a reference, for me to look at. Just kind of make sure I'm getting everything that I need to on there. So in order to do that, let me bring up, hold on a second. Okay, so I saved the picture of the mailbox in my pictures file, and then the easiest way to do this, I'll show you how to do it two ways. This is to bring up your folder. I've got the picture of the mailbox right here. You can just left click and drag to your scene. Okay, and if you notice that the angle that I was looking at my scene in when I dropped it in there is how it placed it, okay, which is not ideal to where we want it. To fix this, if we look over here on the side, there's a little arrow right there. We can click on, there we go. It'll bring up this little sidebar. It's going to tell you the XYZ location of this. So we're going to select it. It's going to give us our rotations and then our scale. Okay, so we can just click here and go 0, 0, 0. Okay, that's going to lay it flat. And then our location, 0, 0, 0. Enter. Okay, and that just kind of took you know, all the location information and put it right at the middle of everything. Let's see, Control Z, just like in most programs, will let you reverse off of things you've done. So if I put us back to there, the other thing that we can do to clear these out is kind of a shortcut. Let's hit Control R. Oh, I'm sorry, Alt R. Okay, Alt R will clear all rotations. Okay, and then Alt G will clear out all locations. Okay, and that's just a shortcut on there. Okay, the other way we can do this, hit X. And delete that out. Okay. Then we can, to get this to close back up, if it gets in your way, just hit N on your keyboard. That's a quick deal. And then I'm going to see if I can get something turned on real quick. Just a second. Okay, I was trying to see if they had screencast keys, but they don't have it on this one. Otherwise I could cast what keys I'm pushing, but I'll just make sure I try to tell you as much as possible. Now the other way, we need to make sure we go back into Edit, go to Preferences. We want to go back into our add-ons, and we want to make sure to let's type in Import. We want to make sure that Import, Export, Import Images as Planes is checked on. Okay, so once we've done that, make sure autosave is on. Okay. Okay. So the other way to bring in an image, you can go to File, Import. You can import images as planes. Okay. Then you want to go to where that is. Let me see. Let me make sure the picture's in the spot that I can get to. Hold on just a second. Okay, so I'll make sure I put it in the spot where I knew it was, that I wouldn't be going through all my stuff. Okay, so click on desktop, so it's on a folder on my desktop. Click on there. And then it's going to be one of these. If the name, I'm not sure what the name is on there, you can go up here at the top. And you can click on this one, go down to thumbnails. Okay, and it'll bring up thumbnail images. Scroll down, there's that mailbox. Okay, you can do import images as planes. Okay, and then you'll see since that first one was kind of doing it, so that first way, dragging and dropping, is the easiest way. When we do it this way, it's putting the image on there as a texture. And right now we're just in plain modeling mode. The one right next to it is you can display textures while you model. So if we click on this one, then our image should pop up there. Okay. And then all we should have to do from there is just put it where we want it. But I'm going to go ahead and do it the other way. Let me do that. Just hit delete. Okay, so okay, so I brought this image back in. Okay, now the other thing I just want to tell you that size, when you're dealing with a video game, the physics in Unity are based on real-world measurements. So, you know, if something's the size of a truck, all the physics are going to be based on that. So we kind of need to make sure that all our stuff is based on the real world sizes, so it makes it easier to do our physics and stuff in Unity. Now in Blender, one of these squares, one kind of get that selected. Over here in our tools, this is the arrow manipulator. Okay, so I can just click on those and pull that back. Okay, and this right here is our 3D cursor. We do have the ability to move this around, and we'll probably do that during this project. But this is just, you know, where any object we bring into the scene is going to originate here. Okay. Got that, and then this little yellow dot. If you see that, that's the origin point. It's the same as in Unity, but it usually doesn't show that little dot. But you know, in Blender and I believe Maya too, it shows, you know, the origin of your objects. But anyway, so just kind of give you the basic measurements of Unity. We can go up here and go to in the menu options over here. There's add. Add. We want to add a mesh. We want to add a cube. Okay. I know we just deleted the other one, so it's overkill. Okay, so standard in Unity, when we bring a cube, a 3D cube into Unity, its standard measurement is 1 meter by 1 meter, you know, by 1 meter squared, I guess. In Blender, it is 2 meters squared. Okay, so it's twice as big as the cube in Unity. So if you start bringing stuff in here, and that's why each one of these squares is one Blender unit, or you know, 1 meter by 1 meter, you know, by 1 meter. But this is, you know, 2 by 2 by 2. So that's why I just want to kind of give you a reference on how big this is. That's roughly, you know, 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet. That's what that is. So I'm going to get rid of that. So we just kind of want to make this, you know, a more agreeable size than what we'll be working with. Let's see. So to do that, we can scale it down. Now we do have tools over here. This is rotate. I'm going to bring up our rotate tool. This is our scale tool. You know, it's kind of like Unity. You can just click on these little boxes, scale stuff down, or click in the middle, and it'll scale all dimensions. I believe that is a all-in-one tool, which kind of gets in the way. But there are also shortcuts. So I usually like just to leave the arrow tools on, and then the shortcuts are real simple. The scale is S. So if you hit S on your keyboard, you'll notice this little thing pops up, and we can just scale that down to roughly about the size you think it would be. Okay. And then the other thing I want to do is I want to pop this kind of up on the floor here, just so it's not sticking halfway in between this grid, which, you know, resembles a zero space. Everything below it's negative, everything above it's positive. So just kind of keep our stuff clean. Try to go up there. Okay, so this is where this perspective thing comes in. If we hit 1 on our numpad and bring in, but you know it's not looking directly on, you'll see we still have perspective on our grid. So if we click this little button here, that's going to look straight on. Okay, and then we have our little compass rose here too, that we can click on to reset our view, depending on where we click, which is a new feature. They just came out with that. so I'm not used to using it, but we can, if we rotate around, it'll tell you the orientation where you're currently at. But then you can, pop you right there. Okay, so we can just kind of eyeball it if you want to. I just kind of want to put it right there. You don't have to be too exact. Really, we're just using that as reference. Just kind of make sure we're getting the same kind of deal. For looking here, okay, so that is 2 meters or 1 meter on the square, and I want to go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. So we can do scale. Okay, that's not that important. Like I said, if we were doing exact following blueprint type things, that would be important. Okay, so the other thing that we want to do before we start on here is, if you notice, it's selectable and all that stuff. So if we're working on something here, we really don't want to be accidentally selecting this and moving it around. So we can come over here into our, this is like the, I forget what they're calling it right now, but it's like in Unity where it shows everything in your scene. That's what this is going to be. And then we need to add, right now we can turn the visibility on and off, but there's other options that are just not showing. If we click on this little thing that looks like a funnel, we can click on there, go down, and they have this little arrow here, means it's selectable. Okay, so if we click on there, and then click our funnel back off, now we have the option to make it not selectable. So we click on there, we can't click on that anymore, or drag and select it. Okay. All right. The first thing I do when I look at an object I'm going to model is kind of the shapes, basic shapes of what makes it what it is here. Let's see. So it's got like a a half circle here on top. And it's pretty square. It's got some legs. So it's a pretty simple shape, and then in 3D view, you can almost say that's a half a cylinder with a square, with some long rectangles as legs, and then other shapes built into it. Since it's way easier, I could start out with a cube and just kind of build the cube up here as a square, and then model this rounded top. It is way easier to start out with a rounded shape and then to make it flat. Okay, going that way. But basically what we're going to do is we're just going to start out with some real basic primitive shapes and then slowly refine it into a better looking model. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to start out with a cylinder, and then I'm going to take the bottom half of that cylinder and just run it, make it flat, and then bring it down. Okay, so to kind of demonstrate what I'm going to do here, we can actually go up here and explain this real quick. This is object mode, so this is going to be the screen to where we bring in our main meshes, and then we go into edit mode to edit the geometry on the mesh. But object mode is kind of like where we can select our separate objects and go in there. It'll kind of get easier as we go. And then this is the 3D cursor, so everything that we bring into the scene is going to originate here at this 3D cursor. Okay, so we can go here and go to add mesh. There is a shortcut. You can do Shift A, okay, and that'll bring up right there. But we want to start out with a cylinder. Okay, so the cylinder is going to bring in. It's going to be pretty much the same dimensions as the cube, just in cylinder form. It's going to be 2 meters, wide in either direction, and then 2 meters tall. Okay, and then when we bring something in, it's going to bring in this little window down here in the lower left-hand corner, and we can click on this little arrow. It'll expand that box. Oops. And then this is kind of like this is the creation. This is the basic geometry that it gives us when it creates this. We can actually manipulate this before we even start. Now once you go into edit mode or do anything with this, this will go away. Okay, so you can only add this to the system, and then this will be the first place you go if you want to change any of this stuff right here. 32 vertices reverse to the 32 points in space that goes around here, and I'll show you that in edit mode. But I think that's too many. So I just want to cut this in half. So what's that? 16. So if I click on there, just type in 16, you'll notice this gets less geometry. It's 1 meter high, 2 meters. We can change that as we go. Okay, so this cap fill type, I was just talking about the cap on the cylinder. We're calling it an n-gon. An n-gon is a face that's just connected by many vertices. In geometry, your basic quad, which is what it sounds like, it wants 4 points in space. And then those 4 vertices make a face. Okay, and then in Unity, game engines prefer triangles. 3D modeling programs prefer quads. Okay, so when we import this in Unity, all Unity does is it just adds a line between here and here and makes a triangle, makes 2 triangles. That's the main difference between 3D programs and game engines, is the geometry it prefers. Okay, an n-gon is a face that's connected by more than 4 vertices. Okay, so that's what n-gon is. Really don't want that. If we go in here, it gives us some choices of nothing, n-gon, and then triangle fan. Triangle fan, if I was going to edit mode, if I go into edit mode, I get to lose changing all of this, so that's why I'm not doing it. But triangle fan means it puts one vertice here in the center of the face, and then connects all of these faces with lines, and it just makes a whole bunch of triangles, like a pie. Okay, I really don't want that either, so I'm going to choose nothing. Okay, and you'll notice that kind of disappears to nothing, and then align it to our world space, which is what we want to do, which is Z. And that's the other thing. I'll explain here real quick. I forgot about that. So I can kind of click off of here, click on that. Okay, so in Blender, if you haven't noticed by now, the other big difference between Blender and other 3D modeling programs and Unity is its XYZ space runs along different axes than, is it axes or axes? I don't know. So if you notice in Unity, Y, which is this yellow-green arrow, is the up-down. Okay, X is usually always the left-right. Okay, Blender it's left-right, X is left-right. Okay, the only difference in Blender and everything else is the Y and the Z axis. Okay, so Blender knows this. So instead of fixing it here, which I guess is a bigger ordeal, whenever you export your model, it automatically rearranges your models to this right here, and basically all it does is it just rotates this where Y is up and Z is forward that way. So you just need to be mindful before you export your model that whenever your model is pointing forward, you just need to make sure it's, like if it's a car, before you export, you just want to rotate where your car, the bumper, the front of the car is pointing up in the air, and then when it exports, it'll export in the right orientation when you take it into Unity. Okay, so now that we have this created, okay, now we can go up here and this when we hover over it to highlights, we can click on there, and we can go to edit mode. Okay, and now in edit mode expands our tools that we can use, and we'll just kind of use these as we go. I usually don't use too many of these. But you'll notice that it highlights all our vertices. We got our points going on here. In between the vertices are the edges, and then in between the 4 edges is a face. Okay, so that's our three major things that we're going to do here, and represent these by selection. So right now I can choose just one vertex, and then so turn arrows back on, and then I can move that however I please. Okay, and the other thing is if you grab something like this and you haven't let go of your mouse, your left mouse button or anything, you can go ahead and just right click on your mouse and it'll cancel that movement. Okay, so that's a good thing to know. Or if you do move it, you can just hit Control Z and it'll cancel out that movement. Okay, just give me a heads up. I'm trying to make this as easy as possible. Okay, so up here next to edit mode, you'll see these three boxes. Okay, so you got vertex select, is what that is. This right here is your edge select. So when you right click on an edge, then you can move that whole edge. And then you have face select. Okay, and with that you can click on the entire face and manipulate a face. Okay, so we pretty much use all three of these as we go. And then depending on what you have selected, there's some different options that we can do up here. So the first thing I want to do is rotate it in the right orientation. To select everything, we can left click and drag, do a big box, okay, and that should select everything. One thing you got to watch out for, go ahead. If you have it in vertex select mode, you'll notice that you can't see these vertices behind here, and when you do this, okay, if you look, it didn't select these, so it is by what you can see. Now to remedy that, to make that easier, up here in the upper right hand, you'll see there kind of a box in box type thing. You can click on it, and that's just called, I call it ghosting. It just kind of turns your model into a semi-transparent deal, and as long as your model stays pretty simple, you can leave it in this mode so you can kind of know where everything's at, but now you can click and drag everything. The other way that you can select everything is if you hit A on your keyboard. Okay, that selects everything. Now if you have other stuff in the scene, that'll select everything in your scene. Okay, so if you have other geometry in edit mode in here, that's going to select all of it. Okay, to deselect all of it all at once, you can hit Alt and A. That'll deselect all of it. Okay, so now if you do have multiple things, and just to kind of demonstrate, just like that, to duplicate, you can hit Shift D. Okay, now you can move it around, but if you want to move it around on precise axes, or axes, however you say it, you can, as soon as you hit Shift D, you can right click on your mouse. Okay, and it just kind of cancels everything, and then your arrows pop back up, and you can kind of slide that off to the side. Okay, so to kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about, I'll hit Alt A, deselect. So if you hit A, it's going to select both of these. Okay, so that's just something to watch out for. Hit Alt A, it'll deselect everything. If you want to select only this, you can have that ghost on and do the box select. But that, if you have separate pieces of geometry but real close together, that sometimes turns impossible. So the other way that you can select all of this model, but without having to do this or the other way, I'll go ahead and turn that off, is you can just right click on there and hit L on your keyboard. Okay, and L, and it'll kind of pop up down here what you're doing. It's called select linked. So every vertex that's linked into that same piece of geometry, it's going to select. Okay, and that comes in real handy when you have a pretty complex model and you have one piece that you just want to select that one piece to change. You just want to click one vertex of it and then you hit L. Okay, then you can separate that from the other model and do whatever you want to with it. But just to demonstrate the different selection modes. Okay, leave that hit there, and then to delete this, you hit X, keyboard, and then now it's going to ask you in edit mode. You want to delete. Do you want to delete the vertices? Do you want to delete the edges? Do you want to delete faces? You can do only edges and faces, you know, just depending on what you want to get done. If you want to dissolve an edge without deleting anything else, you know, take it away and it won't delete the connecting pieces to it. Most of the time, though, if you want to just delete everything, say delete vertices. Okay, now take that all away. Okay. So let's get started with this. Okay, so I want to have the ends of my mailbox be on the x-axis. So I want to rotate it around the y-axis 90 degrees. Okay, so we can, you know, if you want to bring up this, you can hit shift and start rotating, hit shift, and it should control, yeah. I'll kind of give you some things there, and you know, you can try to get it 90 degrees. I think that's 90 degrees right there. If you want to, anything like that, Control Z. Usually what I do, I just know the degrees I want to do it. So I want to rotate around this y-axis 90 degrees. So you can hit R. Okay, that's going to bring up our rotate tool. You can hit Y. Okay, so we want to rotate around the y-axis only. So no matter where we move our mouse, it's only going to rotate around the y-axis. And then you want to hit 90. So it's going to rotate around the Y 90 degrees. And then you hit enter. Okay, so that to me is just a faster, more precise way to do it. Okay, now here's where I can kind of get my size, where I want to do this. So just to do that, with this selected, I'm going to hit S for scale. Okay, and then I want to drag in, and I'm not going to be too precise. I'm just going to eyeball everything, and we can change it at any time. So that should be good enough right there. And then I want to bring it up. Now when we do this in object mode, whenever we had something selected, our origin went with it. Okay, at the origin where it is created, you know, it stays in the middle. In edit mode, we can have this geometry selected, and then when I take this arrow and move it up, you'll notice our origin stays where it's at. Okay. Seems a little too tall. And we can change it there. So if you notice, our origin stays right here at the floor, which is kind of where you want to keep it. You want to keep it in the middle of the model, but at the floor. So when you bring that into Unity, you know, it kind of uses, it'll use this origin as the pivot, and then when you export it, you want to make sure you export the model in this position, because it'll use this position as its origin over in Unity. So, but I'll show you when we export. Okay, so we can do this two ways. What I want to do is, since I've got this half cylinder here, I can either delete everything below it and just extrude down, which I think is what I'm going to do. So in order to do that, you can hit 1 on my numpad. Okay, hit Alt A, deselect everything, and then to see through it, turn on the ghosting. And then what I want to do is I just want to delete the vertices that aren't here in the middle. So I can do a box select, select those right there, hit X, and just delete the vertices. And then when I swing back around, that's what we did right there. Okay, so now what I want to do is extrude these edges down into like a box shape. Easy way, instead of having to select that, hold down shift and select that, and, you know, that right there. I can choose edge select mode, and just select that edge, hold down shift and select that edge. Okay, and then where our cursor manipulator adds the average in between these two selections. Okay, so that's where that's going to be. Okay, so to extrude a new face out of these, there's two ways you can do it. You can go up here to edge, since we have the edges selected, and it's got extrude edges. We can click there, but once you click there, and then wherever your cursor goes, your extrusion is going to go. So that's kind of a awkward type deal. So the shortcut for extrude on anything is once you have them selected, you just hit E. Okay, and E extrudes faces. Okay, but as you notice, we really don't have control about which direction we're extruding them in. I'll go ahead. That should automatically be, yeah. No. Okay, so to make sure that we're going down to Z, we can hit E. Okay, so that lets us do this number again, and then hit Z for Z direction. So you're going to see a little blue line go straight up and down, so that way we know going straight up and down there. And then let's kind of guess. There, I can hit 1. Just kind of make sure down to the 4 there, and then we'll fix this down here as we go. All right. So still getting our basic shape. What we kind of need to do now is close up these edges right here, and so to do that the easy way, well, take a look at our reference picture. We do have this kind of ridge here with the two, where this middle arm is going around, and then this middle piece kind of goes in there. Just to kind of make sure that we have the geometry to make that distinction. Let's do this number. Okay, and I'll demonstrate something else. Okay, so what I want to do is select this edge. Okay, but I don't want to have to select, hold down shift, select. Okay, there's a fast way that we can do that. So we can just hold down Alt and then click on the edge. Okay, and that's going to select the whole edge loop. Okay, and what we want to do there. Okay, but before we do that, well, we can go ahead and do this. Next thing I'm going to do is I want to extrude this edge, okay, in just a little bit, and then we'll close it up. So to do this, we're going to hit extrude, and then we're going to scale it in based on the normal direction of the edge that's facing, and it should work. So let me give this a shot here real quick. So just to do this real quick, we can hit E for extrude. Okay, but this isn't really what we want, so we can right click on our mouse. Okay, now the extrusion is still there. Okay, it's just sitting at the exact same position it was when we extruded it. Okay, so to do what we want to with it, we can hit scale or Alt, push down your Alt button and hit S. So you're doing an alternate scale, so Alt S. Oops. Okay, you'll notice our cursor kind of does this up down arrow. Now what this is going to do, and it's really not going to do what do there. Let's see if I pull this down about right here. Okay, I'm going to hit Control Z. See if I can get this better. Try Alt S again. Okay, well, let me do it a different way. So hit Control Z. Okay, so we want to scale it in. We want to scale it in the Z and the Y direction, but we don't want it scaling in the Z direction. Okay, So to do this, we can exclude the scaling of the X direction by hitting S just for regular scale, okay, and then hitting Shift X. You'll notice that we have a blue and a yellow line, so it's representing that's the only axis that they're going to scale on. And then you go towards the center, and it'll scale in like that. So I just want to do it just a little bit more. So we hit Scale, Shift X, bring that in just a little bit more. Okay, we'll have just a little. Okay, so what you noticed on this one is that the vertices, it pulled these bottom vertices way up. Okay, because it scaled these up too. To fix that, because we want these down here at the bottom, let's go into vertex mode. Select that one, hold down Shift, select that one. Okay, and this is where I can demonstrate the snap to functions. Okay, so if we go up here and to the top middle, there is a horseshoe or a magnet, is what it's really supposed to be. Okay, so if we turn that on, it turns our snapping on. Okay, and this right here means we can snap to the grid. That's what that one is. If we click on there, we've got increments on the grid. We can snap to vertexes, we can snap to edges, we can snap to faces, we can snap to volume. These really come in handy when we're doing other stuff, if you're retopologizing a sculpted image. But what we want to do is just snap to vertex. Okay, and now it's on all the time, which is okay, but when you're trying to move something not snapping to a vertex, it kind of gets, to be a pain. But let me demo it real quick. But now we can place our cursor over this blue arrow, left click, pull down, and then hover. We'll have that little yellow, it's going to say, okay, we're going to have it snapped to that vertex position. Okay. So that's how we can snap down there. Now, like I said, it gets kind of annoying when you're trying to move something kind of halfway up and it's trying to snap to every vertex you get close to, because it will just automatically do that. I'll kind of put these back up. So we can actually leave this off, okay? And then to activate it while we're doing this is we can click on this blue arrow, okay, and then move it a little bit, and then hold down the Control key. Okay, when we hold down the Control key, it'll temporarily activate it to where we can snap on there, let go of the Control key, and then now we don't have to worry about this being on and messing up another movement that we're trying to do over there. Okay. So kind of the same with this, because if we look on our reference image, this goes straight across, and that might mess it up just a little bit. So we can grab this vertex and that vertex, and we just want to move it up to right there. Okay. And then we just want to close up this faces. So to do that, we can go up to Edge Select Mode, which we can click here, or on your keyboard, your number keys above your keys, not the numpad, but the numbers above your keys. This is controlled with the 1, 2, and 3 button. So just another shortcut that you have to memorize. It takes a little bit. So if I hit 2 on a keyboard, now if you don't have a number keypad and you emulated a number keypad, this won't work. Okay, you'll have to come up here and manually do it. So it's one or the other. But to put a face in between here, we can select this edge, select that edge, hit F, and fill it. Okay. And then we want to fill these up here, so we can just go here, here, hit F, here, hit F, hit F. Okay, so we run into a triangle, which really isn't, in the grand scheme of things, a big deal. Okay, but just while I'm sitting here demonstrating this, we want to keep this as a 4-point quad. Okay, so the easiest way to do that is if I go here in the middle, and here's another thing I'm going to demonstrate. I'm going to add a line here, which is going to be, like this edge here. It's just going to insert an edge with vertices and everything along this center line. Okay, and how to do that, you hit Control R on your keyboard. Okay, now if your cursor is out here, it's not going to show up on the model. Okay, if you bring your cursor in on the model, it's going to say, oh, do you want the line here? It's going to kind of give you a preview highlight of where you want to cut your geometry, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So if I go up here and hover on this line, it's going to say, oh, you want to cut a new piece of geometry there? And you're like, well, yeah, that's where I want it. So you can just, once that's there, you can left click. Okay, and now once you left click, it's going to give you this orange preview line. Okay, and if you move it side to side, you can just say, okay, I cut a new piece of geometry and now I want it right here. Okay, but we don't want to do that. We want it right in the middle. Okay, so if you've clicked on, I want to make this geometry, and it gives you this orange line, and if you've moved your cursor, you're like, man, I want it dead center. You just have to right click on your mouse and it'll cancel any of that movement and put it right dead center in between these two edges. Okay, which is what we want. All right. And then the easiest way to close this up right here is we can just click on that vertex, and I just want to merge it with this vertex right there. So zoom way in, hold down shift, click that one. Okay, now to merge, we can go up here to the vertex choices. Let's see, that should have, yeah, merge vertices. But if you look, it gives you the shortcut, so you can do Alt M. Okay, it'll bring up kind of the same thing. And we clicked this lower one first and then the upper one, so we want to merge at the last of where we selected that vertex. Okay, and right there. Okay, so what that does is it takes the possibility of that being a triangle, okay, out of there, and then it gives us our 1, 2, 3, 4 faces. So we've kept our quad geometry along with that. Okay, about 90% of the things that you're going to do are going to be symmetrical. So which that just means this side's going to be exactly as that side, as far as on the x-axis. The y-axis, it doesn't have this here with this door here or anything. It's just, covered. Okay, so in order for us to make it easier on us to model, so we only have to model one side one time, and it repeats it over here, is we got a thing called mirror. So what we want to do, so it's going to mirror right along this origin here. So to do that, we can just go in here and hit Control R. We're going to add a loop cut right here in the middle. Okay, I'm just going to add that right into the middle of our geometry. You want to right click with our mouse, and then with that orange line there without moving anything, just right click again. Okay, and that's going to place that right there in the middle. Okay, and then choose Edge Select. We can hold down our Alt button, hover our cursor over this edge right here, left click. Okay, that's going to select that whole edge. We can hit X and then choose vertices. Okay, it's going to delete half our model, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, but now we're going to add it back in there. Okay, so over here on the right, this is kind of all of our information and extra things that we can do. We have some material slot, and then we have some major scene settings here, but then this is our geometry information. It tells us our location and rotation in object space. Okay, so edit mode, it's not affecting any of this stuff. All stuff, and this is where we can rename it. So while we're sitting here, we can just go ahead and rename it. You'll see it up here. We can just click on where it says cylinder. We can type in mailbox. Okay, hit enter. Okay, you'll notice it up here it's changed too. Okay, but what we want to do is right here at this wrench, click on it. These are called modifiers, and if we click on there, it's going to bring up all of the different modifiers. These right here are simulations. We can do particle systems, which is how we do, like, same thing in Unity, where it does hair, fluid. You can do water simulations, soft bodies. It's kind of like gummy bears and stuff. Oceans, it has a deal where it simulates an ocean. So if you have like a boat scene or something. Explode, it'll add a force and explode your model at its geometrical edges. Got a dynamic paint, which is pretty cool. So if you want like a scene where it's raining, you can have a dry road, and then you have everywhere a raindrop hits and makes it wet. So that's a pretty cool deal. Collisions, that's the same as Unity. When we do bullet physics in Blender, you can have things collide with each other. And then cloth, and that is essentially cloth. You can do cloth, flags, clothes, towels, drapes, anything you want to do there. We got our deform modifiers. We can add armature to put a skeleton in our 3D models, to animate them. I'm not sure what cast is. That's a new one they've added in there. We got curve deforms. You can deform geometry based on a curve. You can displace geometry based on there. All this stuff. We got our generate, which is basically what we're going to use the most here. But if we go down here, you'll see this little butterfly-looking thing where it says mirror. Okay, click on there. You'll see it pops up this geometry automatically. It's automatically preset up to do it on the x-axis. Okay, so it's basically just whatever here, it's just mirroring it on the other side of our origin point. Okay, it does have Y and Z, so if it was perfectly symmetrical on all three axes, we could just model one corner of it, mirror it across the X, Y, and Z axis, and make a whole square, like that. We can have it bisect along the X axis or the Y axis, okay, and then we can flip stuff back and forth. We can also pick, say like we're in edit mode and there's an object here, and then we're modeling something here, but we want to model something exactly over here. We can have it mirror based on the object. Okay, so we could, instead of having it mirrored right there, we can pick this little eyedropper, click on whatever object we want to mirror it across. Which I don't use this too much, but there are uses for it. Alright, so once we have this set up, I'm going to do there. The only other thing I like to do is it's not showing the geometry on there, and it just kind of, to the eye, it's not pleasing to me. So if you look up here, it's got where you can render it, you can see it. It's basing it off our geometry here, but this right here, if you click there, it just kind of sees where you can see the lines. Okay, and that's, just aesthetically, you don't have to do that, but I just like to be able to see that. Okay, so once we have this set up, whatever we do over here, it automatically does over here. Okay, so the first thing I've noticed, that it is kind of skinny on that end, and I don't know if it's a little bit tall or not. That might be an optical illusion. But what I'm going to do is just stretch it out a little bit further. So the easy ways to do that: hit 1, our numpad. We can go into ghost mode so we can see through. Click on see the vertices. Select those. It should bring up our arrow tool. And just kind of pull it. And if you look on the right side, it's going to do the exact same thing. Okay. So I'll say about right there. Looks about right. Okay, so just gonna go over this real quick. That's your ghosting one. This is wireframe. Okay, so it's pretty much the same, but it doesn't have any kind of grayish look. See through there. Click on there. It's going to allow you to see through, but so that's pretty much the same as wireframe. Do have this is you're going to be able to see the texture. Okay, so if we had a texture on there, it's going to give you a basic representation of what the texture looks like. And then we do have a render view, which is what this is. So if we click on there, if we had materials and stuff on there, it's going to show you what it looks like actually when it's rendered. Okay, with lights and full reflections and all that stuff. But most of the time we're going to render in this view right here with no textures or anything yet. And then once we get everything made, then we'll start seeing what this is right here. Okay, so the other settings that I set up on here to make things easier is sometimes it's hard to see these edges and what's actually sticking out and what's actually going in as far as the geometry goes. To fix that, with this selected, we can click on this little down arrow. It's going to bring up our different options. Okay, right now color is based on just the basic material that we have on there. What we want to do is, since it's going to be bringing to a video game, if you notice when we're modeling, we can actually see the backside of these faces. Okay, in Unity, that's where it would be see-through because they only render the one side. So to emulate that, in here we can go and do backface culling. Okay, so once we have that clicked, as you can see, now we can see through like they don't exist. Okay, so and we know if we're making geometry and the normals aren't facing the right way, it'll be see-through, and we'll know we have a problem and we can fix it. Okay, so do that. The other thing we want to do is we want to click on this cavity. Okay, so what that does is it kind of puts a highlight. I don't know, if we tab back into edit mode, you can hit the tab button, go back in there, it'll put a highlight along these top edges here, and then anything going in, it kind of puts a dark edge, so it just gives you a better visual of your geometry and where it stands. Okay, so those are the two things I like to get going in there. The other cool thing is it does have matte caps, which are just kind of false materials, and it's kind of more for sculpting, kind of give you an idea of what your depths and stuff are in sculpting. But just to show you, you can click on matte cap. Okay, it's got this matte cap material. You can click on there. It's going to bring up all these different choices that you can do. So I like this shiny red. Okay, and then you can kind of see where the reflections are, and it's all false. It's a false light and all that stuff. But if you just kind of want to see where your facets are and everything, it's kind of a quick way to do that. But I like just to do standard, just a regular studio material. Okay, moving on. So with that done, we can tab back into edit mode, or you can go there and do it manually. Okay. Let's see. I won't be exact, but we'll get there as close enough. Okay, so the first thing I want to fix is we'll put the legs in. So if we kind of judge what that is, I would say it's probably about right there where those legs start. So to add that geometry in, you do the Control R or add a loop cut. So it's going to add that in there. Right click, and now we can kind of adjust where that's going to be, and so I'm gonna kind of just do best guess. It's not going to be that accurate, but right there, whatever looks pleasing to the eye. Okay. Now if you look on the front too, along with this edge, we're going to make that a leg. We need to do a loop cut here to bring up this side of the leg. Okay, so we can do that. We just kind of hover our cursor here, hit Control R. It's going to bring that loop cut in, and then if you can see, it mirrors it on the other side. So it's real nice. You only have to do this once. It means kind of eyeball what would look good. It's about even from there. Okay, and then we can choose our face select mode there. Coming down, we can select that face, this face, that face, this face. Okay, and then hit X and delete faces. All right, so we're going along there, and then we'll add some thickness and stuff to these here in a second. Okay. The other thing I want to do is if I look up here, this actually kind of comes down past the midway point, goes down one further, and this is right at basically where this starts going down. Okay, so let's say not to be dead on accurate, we can just kind of choose this right here, and that. Okay, and then hit X, delete those faces. So now that we have that opening, right there. Okay, that should be good for what we have now. Okay, so I can choose the edge select. Select this edge right here. Okay, and then if we look right here, we can actually see where there's a straight across piece right here, and this is actually not a straight in, it actually kind of goes up at an angle right there. And it goes in pretty much right up to where this is. So probably the best thing to do, that's actually beyond that. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and click this edge right here. Okay. I'm going to zoom in kind of close. We'll hit E to extrude, hit Z for the Z direction. Kind of pull that down. Move that edge a little bit. Okay. And then, so I know that one, it kind of follows up with the sheet metal. But like I said, we're going to be dead accurate. We can go ahead and do a E to extrude, hit Y. So we're going to extrude backwards along that yellow line. Pull it back just a little bit. Okay. Kind of see it right there. Okay, and it looks like, I know that door goes straight up and down. So we can go ahead and do E to extrude on the Z axis. Pull this straight down. Now I'm going to say about right here. It kind of looks like a good enough slope for that to be going up. Okay. So once we have that, we can already have this edge selected. We can hold down Shift, select that edge, and hit F, and that fills that face in. Okay. Now I know we've got this to deal with. So let's see what we can do while we're looking is, let's go ahead, and since we have this right here as kind of a buffer, go down there, let's do an edge cut this way. Do Control R, middle, hit left click, and then we can move that orange line down. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. We can just kind of give it a eyeball about right there. Okay, so now we've got a new edge loop. And then for this, we can close this up pretty easily. We've got one edge, two edge, three edge. Then if we make a face between here and here, that's going to create a nice quad. So we hit F, let's kind of fill that in. Alright, and then from here, best way to do this? I kind of want to have a Alright, let's try it this way. I'm going to hit Control R. I'm going to run my cursor across here, and that's going to bring it this way. Okay, so then I want to add 2, since we're going to connect this edge and this edge. Okay, so to do that, you can scroll on your mouse wheel up, and that's going to make 2 edge loops. Okay, and you can keep doing that and add a whole bunch, but we just want to add 2 edge loops, pretty evenly spaced. And then once we do that, we can left click, and it's going to give you 2 orange lines that you can move, together like that. But we want to keep them in the middle, so we can just right click. So we've added these 2 lines, but now we can make our quads by choosing this edge and this edge, hitting F. Edge, F, this edge, and this edge, and hit F. Okay, and now what I was looking at is I want to have this edge kind of have the same spacing as here and here, kind of have a nice even loop coming across here in case we need to make any like paneling marks or anything like that. It just gives us a nice edge that we can do that from. Okay, so what we need to do here is we click on this edge. That's called edge slide. Okay, and to do that, we can go over here in our tools. Click on this edge slide right here. So we click on there. You can kind of grab this yellow ball, and it's going to slide it along those other 2 edges there. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. We just kind of eyeball between here and there. And that is pretty good. But it used these 2 edges to slide that up. Okay. Now we can do that with a shortcut. We don't have to do that with this tool. So click on here and bring our arrows back. If we hit Control Z, bring that back down. The shortcut on our keyboard to do that is hitting G twice. So you can hit GG. Okay, it's going to bring up these little arrows, but it does the same thing. It just slides up based on those other 2 edges right there. So that's just a quick way of getting our geometry to line up that way. Okay, let's see. Alright, and then if you think that's pushed back too far, which I kind of do, I know it doesn't matter that much, but you just can click on these faces. We've got our arrows, pull that out a little bit. That does look better. Alright, got that done. Let's see. Do have, we'll fix that. This is a little door that they pull down and get the mail out with. Let's go ahead. I'm going to do another loop cut here. Cut across our geometry, kind of separate this piece from this piece. So we can go in here and hit Control R. Just go put it there in the middle, but I want to bring it up to about right here. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but we just have to be close. Put that right there. And here's where we can start adding our little details in. So if we look at our mailbox, we've got this loop is even with this, and it's pretty much even with that, and everything, but sunken in a little bit here and up along here. Okay, and that's just where this piece of metal is brought on the inside and riveted. And then this door shuts up against it right there. So to kind of get that look of this sunken panel look, okay, Go into our face select mode, choose that face. Let's see. All right, and something else we want to do when we do a mirror, and I forgot to do this earlier, is we want to make sure that clipping is on. Okay, and clipping just means that nothing can go across this line. Like if I extruded, if this was no face at all and I extruded a face over, I could pull it across, and then the mirror side would come across this way and they could overlap each other. Okay, with clipping on, it dead ends at that center line. It doesn't allow you to overlap across the middle. So we just want to make sure that it's clicked on. Okay. I'm trying to figure out, because there is a edge that goes down right there. So let's go ahead. Hit Control R. We can do that with those faces selected. Left click, bring it up, give it our edge there. Okay. That's what I was looking at. So I'm gonna click that face, brings up that one, and all we gotta do here is hit E to extrude. Okay, and now it's taking the normal direction of the faces, and it just prejudges that blue line of that's the direction you want to do it in, which it is. So all we got to do now is just kind of move our mouse in that direction until it gives us the depth that we think that it's at, which is about right there. Okay. So we got that pulled out. Look at our picture. Alright, now we just need to have a little handle that comes down. So I think we're ready for our separate. I guess we can make our. We can go ahead and do where it has an inset for our door that actually hinges down right there. Okay, and it's the same principle, but we're going to do something called an inset. So now with our face mode still on, click this face, hold down Shift, that face. Okay. And now it's called inset, and what we're going to do is actually just extrude a face along this face. Okay, and once I do it, you'll kind of see what I'm doing. But the shortcut for it is I, and you'll see this little dotted line and a plus sign. And if you move towards the middle, you'll see where this is coming in at. Okay. Now, if you look in the middle, it's actually insetting faces from the middle. You know, like it's going to make two separate faces now. And we actually want to extrude that across the middle to where it makes that all one face. So if you look up the upper left, it brought in these words. It says confirm, enter left click, cancel, escape, right click. It's showing our thickness. If we move our mouse, you'll see the thickness change like that. You'll see where it says outset. You hit O. You can actually do this, but it's going outside of that. You know, this is inset. You can do outset. Then you have where it says boundary. B, where it's turned on. So if you hit B on your keyboard, you'll see where that middle piece goes away. Okay, so that's just a little shortcut where we want to do that. We can do, if you hit I again, you can see where it says individual off. You can hit I again, and now it's going to inset individually based on the individual faces. Okay, we don't want that, so you can just hit I again. Okay, and then if you do want the boundary thing turned on, you just hit B again. We'll bring that back. Hit B again, go away. But we just want to do this because that door in there does have a frame around it. And then hit left click on our mouse, finish that up. And if you really look in there, this is kind of pulled out a little bit. So like we did here on the inside, so here just want to do E for extrude. Okay, let's go bring up that same line there to tell us, you know, we're going to use these faces to extrude on, and that's fine. You can change it by hitting the Z, Y, or X button, and it'll override that, but that's exactly what we want to do. So we just want to move our mouse and pull it out just a little bit. Okay. So that's not. I'm going to be too accurate, but you know, might as well right here. And plus, I'm demonstrating what's going on. Okay, so I really only have a couple more things to do. Besides close up this inside, and I'll show you how to do that. What I want to add is this handle. Then we'll add this little lock cylinder there, and then we'll do the paneling to where it makes this little groove here, where these corner pieces are actually riveted on, and it'll give us that little groove mark in there. So to do this handle, this is where we can actually do a separate piece of geometry. You know, we'll have to do this little handle here too. So I'll show you that. In fact, I'll show you here first. Okay. Okay, so this is where this little 3D cursor comes in handy, because we can actually place this in different areas. So with our vertex select picked, I can hit Alt-A, turn that off. So I want that handle. I can click this vertex right there. Okay. Hit Shift A or Shift S. I'm sorry. Okay, it's going to bring up this little wheel here. It's going to have selection to cursor, but what we want is cursor to selected. Okay. And if you look, it pops our little 3D cursor right there where we have that selected. Okay. Now, for just temporary reasons, we're going to turn clipping off. Otherwise, when we bring in our other piece of geometry, we're not going to be able to do anything with it, since it's right here at the boundary. But I'll show you how you just want to make sure that you manage this right here. Otherwise, I mean, you can get some really weird geometry if you don't. Make sure you have that turned on. Okay, so we're going to turn clipping off. Okay, and then I want to bring in a cube. Okay, so we can do Shift A and bring in a cube. Okay, naturally it's going to bring in a cube at 2 meters by 2 meters. So all we really need to do is, once that's in there, you can just scroll out, hit S to scale it way down, scale it way down there, and then we can use our arrows and pull them apart. And as you can see, you know, without that clipping, we'd be able to, you know, and the one on the left now is the actual mirrored one. Okay, so I just want to pull the real one out here off to the left, right there, and then once we have this separated, I want to turn clipping back on. Then I'll kind of show you with this handle how we use that clipping to our advantage. Okay, so I want to pull the cube out this way. Okay, and to save on geometry, just kind of get into the habit. This face back here is not going to be seen at all. Okay, it's going to be up against this face or even inside a little bit, and it's not going to be seen at all. So on render engines and 3D game engines, every face on our model, it will try to render. So that'll actually take up render memory, even though you'll never be able to see it. That's why they only render one side of the face in the game engine, so it doesn't have to waste memory modeling something that you're actually going to be looking at. So just for game engine series, we can select that face, hit X, delete that face. Okay, and then we want to go back up to edge select mode, hit Alt, hover over that edge and left click, select that whole edge around there. Okay, and then we can just grab this yellow Y axis arrow, pull that back into there, and you can kind of see the edge disappear inside the geometry. Okay, and then we just need the handle that pulls across here. So we can hover right here, hit Control R, put an edge loop in, kind of bring that out a little bit. Okay. Then we can select in face select mode, select that face. We can hit E to extrude, And so there's that blue line again based on the normal of that face. Pull that out a little bit, and then we want to stop. Okay, and now we're going to connect these two pieces so we don't need this face. Hit X, delete faces, choose edge mode, hover over the edge, hold down Alt, select the whole edge, make sure our clipping is turned on, and our modifier. Okay, and then we can just pull this red arrow and we can just pull it right to the middle. And it'll stop, and then when we look over here in our, we'll have this merge right here. It'll automatically merge those vertices together. Okay, so that's how we use the clipping. Now if we didn't have the clipping on, it would allow us to go across, and then we would have this geometry overlapping each other. Like I said, that's not very good. It gives a weird artifact when you're doing that. Okay, next thing I want to do real quick, and then we're going to have to end this video, is I want to make this handle pull across here. Okay, so we can use this to make that, and to do that, you know, we've got this edge loop selected. We can kind of hover over, hit L on our keyboard. It's going to select all of that geometry there. We can hit a Shift D. That's going to duplicate that, but you know we don't have control over where it goes, so we want to right click on our mouse. Okay, and now we can use our arrows to make sure that we're getting that exactly where we want it to go. Okay, it's just a straight across piece there, so we can delete this edge across. So to do that, with our edge select mode on, hit Alt A, deselect everything, and then with our so let's do face select mode. We can hover our cursor over right here and hit hold down Alt and left click. Okay, and it's going to select all those faces right there, and then we can hit X, delete faces. All right, and then we want to grab that face, and we want to delete that face. Okay. And then we can go to, we actually want to delete these edges, so I'll show you how to do that without deleting all the geometry. So we can go to edge select mode, hold down Alt, click on that edge, I'll select the whole edge. Then this is where we hit X, and this is where we want to dissolve edges. If we deleted the edge, it would delete all the geometry here too. Okay, so we want to dissolve this edge. Dissolve edges. So it takes that edge away, not anything else there. Okay, now we just want to Alt, left click, select all of that right there, pull it back to a reasonable position, and just kind of see. Like I said, we're just going to kind of get close. It's kind of like it's just got a lip where you can get your fingers underneath it. So it's a little too far. There, I'm trying to think of the best way to do representation of that. We can probably just do this. Hit Control R. We're going to do an edge loop on there. Okay. Alright, I accidentally hit. So if you accidentally hit, click, and it puts your edge loop right there in the middle, you can do Alt, left click, select that whole loop, and now you can move that whole loop up and down. Let's kind of put it right there. We'll do another one, Control R. Kind of slide it up right there. And then face select mode, click that one, Shift, click that one, X. Delete faces. Then to do this, we're going to select this edge. Okay, we can extrude, and then it doesn't know exactly where we want to go, but we know we want to go down the X-axis. Okay, so we hit X, and we can just pull this straight across to all the hits. And then the only other thing we have to do is grab that edge there, and this edge here, hit F, and fill in that back edge. And there we go. So let's pull this in towards this door here. So hovering over this thing, hit L. Select the whole thing. Pull it in. It's a little bit below that edge. And now we want to make sure this goes all the way out here. So select that face, that face, that face. Let's pull it out there. Alright, let me do one more thing before I end this video.